Michael Alizani had always known that life with Angela Deem was a whirlwind of situations, but he never imagined how turbulent it would become after they were no longer together. Their split had been explosive, full of accusations and threats, but Michael was determined to move on. Angela, however, was not going to give up so easily. She launched a series of legal battles against Michael, determined to prove that he had been unfaithful, deceived and deceived. Angela's campaign against him was relentless, but Michael had something he didn't have: truth and integrity on his side. As the accusations piled up, Michael found himself fighting not only for his reputation, but also for his future. Angela's accusations were harsh, accused him of cheating with younger women, deceiving her and manipulating her emotions for his benefit. She was convinced that Michael had used her to get a visa to America, only to abandon her after he got what he wanted. The charges were hurt and Michael felt their weight weighing on him. Despite their rocky relationship, Michael had loved Angela dearly, and seeing him so determined to destroy her was painful. But Michael wasn't going to let Angela's anger ruin his life. Something tells you that Michael is cheating on Angela anyway? I have 160 pages of reports to directly answer your question. No, there is nothing. I don't care. I don't care, he said. Why did you leave? Send me home. This is the last time you will say this. He knew that if he wanted to come out of this battle unscathed, he had to clear his name once and for all. That's when he decided to take legal action against Angela's accusations with a defamation case. He knew that Angela was motivated by anger and hurt, but that did not give him the right to tarnish her name with lies. Michael has hired a top-notch legal team, determined to prove his innocence in court. The legal battles lasted months, with each side presenting its case. Angela's accusations became more detailed over time. She claims that Michael had a secret life in Nigeria full of young women who were only interested in his money. She insisted that Michael had been deceiving her all along, using his charm to manipulate her into sending him money and gifts. Angela's evidence was weak, relying on hearsay and circumstantial evidence, but she was convinced that her passionate testimony was enough to convince the judge. After an exhaustive study, they see, I have a report of 189 pages, almost everything that has ever been mentioned about you on the internet. It took a team of about 5 investigators to uncover all the information so if you have something to discover, now is the perfect time to do it. No. Michael, on the other hand, kept his cool throughout the process. He knew he had nothing to hide and was convinced that the truth would come out in the end. Her lawyers worked tirelessly to deny Angela's allegations, presenting evidence that contradicted her story. They pointed out that Michael had never been involved in any questionable financial transactions and that the women Angela claimed he had been unfaithful to were not just friends or acquaintances. The most damning evidence came when Michael's legal team presented testimony from Angela's private investigator. Angela had hired the private investigator in a last-ditch effort to find incriminating information about Michael. He wanted to catch him in the act to prove once and for all that he was the man he thought he was. The private investigator, a seasoned professional, had spent weeks following Michael, interviewing people in his life and digging into his past. Angela had faith that the investigator would find something, anything, that would confirm her suspicions, but when the private investigator testified, the courtroom was shocked by what he had to say. Instead of uncovering incriminating evidence against Michael, the investigator testified that Michael was, in fact, innocent. I want the right detector to prove me wrong. I want it to be fake. I really want to be wrong. Michelle, do you know that Angela hired a private detective? No, he had found no evidence of fraud, deception, or any other wrongdoing. According to the investigator, Michael was a sincere and honest man who was unfairly targeted by Angela's revenge. The investigator's testimony was the final nail in the coffin of Angela's case. As the verdict approached, tension filled the courtroom. Angela was visibly irritated. She shifted in her seat. Her face was a mixture of anger and disbelief. She couldn't imagine that the man she had spent years with, the man she believed had betrayed her, could be innocent. When the judge finally handed down his verdict, acquitting Michael of all charges, the courtroom erupted in applause. Michael had won. He was free of Angela's accusations and his name was cleared. but Angela was not ready to accept the result. As the applause continued, he stood up and started yelling at the judge, Michael, the private investigator, anyone who wanted to hear. She accused the investigator of lying, of bribing Michael's legal team. His outburst was intense, full of the kind of fury that had become his signature in 90-day engagement. But this time no one will listen. The courtroom had already moved, concentrating on congratulating Michael on his victory. Michael remained calm as Angela's screams echoed through the courtroom. He had seen this side of Angela many times before, but now he had no more power over her. He was free, not only legally, but also emotionally. Angela's attempts to destroy him had failed and it was time for him to move on. As Angela left the courtroom still shouting accusations and insults, Michael felt a sense of peace wash over him. He had fought for this moment and now he was here. He had regained control of his life and was ready to make a new start with the support of his friends and family. Michael knew he could finally put the past behind him and look forward to a better future. But even as Michael moved forward, Angela's anger faded. She wasn't one to back down easily, and in the days that followed, she continued to spread rumors about Michael, trying to tarnish his reputation any way she could. He appeared on talk shows, gave interviews and even took to social media to express his displeasure with the decision, but the more she spoke, the more people began to see her for what she really was, a bitter, angry woman who could not accept defeat. Michael, for his part, accepts his new freedom. He started working on projects he had put off for years, reconnecting with old friends and even considering new relationships. The process was a turning point in his life, a moment where he realized that he did not need to tell anyone, least of all Angela. He had been vindicated and was now ready to focus on his own happiness. As the months passed, Angela's anger gradually subsided. The public grew tired of his incessant anger, and even his staunchest supporters began to question his motives. Michael, however, continued to thrive. He was finally free to live his life the way he wanted, without Angela's shadow hanging over him. As for Angela, she had to face the reality of her actions. She had tried to destroy Michael, but in the end she only succeeded in destroying herself. Her reputation was destroyed, her credibility questioned, and she was left alone, screaming into the void, while Michael continued his life of hope and promise. For years, Michael Elizani was caught in a relationship that was based more on durability than love. From the moment he met Angela Deem, he had been drawn to her fiery personality and bold confidence, believing that these traits masked a heart that, deep down, would appreciate the love and loyalty he was willing to offer her. But as time passed, Michael began to realize that his devotion to Angela had been taken for granted, that her love was being used against him in ways he could never have imagined. Michael's efforts to show Angela his love were constant and unwavering, whether it was through words of affirmation, small gestures of love, or his willingness to compromise almost everything. Michael tried to make Angela feel secure in their relationship. He got up early to call, knowing how much he appreciated his daily check-ins, even if it meant losing sleep himself. He avoided situations that could be misinterpreted, doing everything possible to calm Angela down.